Guys, I'm Ezra Shao, back again with my co-host Reese Rowan and our first guest, Jimmy Allder. Again, we're in Lewisburg, West Virginia. And so, Jimmy, you are the band director at East. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask was, what made you want to become a band director?
Oh gosh. So I went through, I guess, most half, 2/3 of my high school career anyway, thinking I was going to go into some sort of science. I really wanted to maybe go into engineering or, was interested in physics and things like that. And then at some point, kind of early in my senior year, I just realized, I have this passion for music, and I really have loved the experience that I've had as a student, gaining life experiences and musical experiences and everything else from being a part of the band program at Greenbrier East. And I thought, I really feel like I could, kind of take that as a career path and hopefully pass on some of those experiences on to a new generation.
Right. So your band director when you were in high school was Jeff Bryant, right?
Yes.
Do you think he inspired you to become a band director?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, no question about it. Jeff Bryant's, is a very inspiring guy, and probably the most influential teacher that I had while I was in high school. And I certainly owe a lot to him when it comes to that.
Speaking of, what do you think you'd want to be in your band program right now?
Would I want to be in my band program? Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would love it.
It sucks that I'm missing it this year. Especially since you did a skip class show, right?
Yeah.
And drum major over here too, right?
Yeah, he's kind of like my boss if I was employed.
Yeah. Reese, do this. Reese, do that.
Right. So another thing I wanted to talk about was, East has got a pretty good band program, I think, fortunate enough to be well-funded, and, I really appreciate the work you certainly do to help us put it together. And over the years we've had some pretty dang good shows. So I guess I wanted to ask, how do you come up with the shows or songs,
okay,
et cetera, et cetera?
I don't know how long I can take on this because just depending, we could go the short version or the medium length version, or we could go 4 hours or whatever. But
4 hours, man.
But basically, a lot of the original ideas come to me. I'm not even kidding. Lucid dreams.
Really?
I mean, or even just real dreams. Like a lot of times, I'll wake up and think, "Wow, that's a cool idea," or whatever. But the process is actually a lot longer than that. I come up with a crazy idea that is probably not going to work in any sense of reality. And then I talk to Brian Carr, and you guys know Mr. Carr, but he's the band director at Eastern Greenbrier Middle School, but he's also my partner in show design, and he's
awesome.
One of my best friends, and we kind of come up with this stuff together. But when Brian and I talk, the initial thing is he tells me how ridiculous and outlandish my idea is, and then we basically fight and argue with each other for a couple weeks or months or however long, and then we come to a way that it's going to work out.
Right.
So I kind of look at myself as kind of the dreamer or the crazy idea guy. He's the one that's like, okay, but this has to work in reality, and so it is a good process. Actually, the two of us did a session at the West Virginia Music Educators Association conference last spring or last winter on that very topic, how we come up with ideas and how we go through them. And what I just told you is kind of the short version.
Right.
That's awesome.
So last year we did Crossroads, right? So what was your lucid dream for that?
Okay, so the Crossroads, the idea of the Crossroads, and the idea that someone sells their soul to the devil for achieving some greatness or riches or whatever. But there's always when you sell your soul, there's always something that you lose from that. Your soul. It's kind of a big deal.
Right.
But anyway, so
do you remember a specific moment?
I'm trying to think of the thing that really kicked it off. I also talk about ideas with my family a lot, and I've got Kaylee and Cedric are in the high school right now, and my wife Tasha's been involved with the band program as long as I have. So we bat around ideas a lot, and I think the idea of the Crossroads and the idea that it could work as a show was something that came up in discussions at our house. We've watched the old movie with Ralph Macchio, The Crossroads, and then there's a lot of allusion to the idea of the Crossroads and some of the music by Tenacious D and stuff like that. So there were things that were happening and kind of popping up in my mind. I also, you guys probably know this, but I teach a music appreciation class, and one of the things that we always talk about in music appreciation classes is just different eras and genres of music. And one guy that comes up when we're talking about Baroque and classical music is this guy Niccolo Paganini, who was an amazing fiddle player, and there were all sorts of rumors that he must have sold his soul to the devil in order to have his talents. So I think in between, preparing a lesson for music appreciation class and watching the old Crossroads movie and other things like that, it just it's like, there's something to this. Interestingly, when I brought it up to Mr. Carr, one worry that we all kind of had in the back of our minds was, this could be, you're looking at potential, religious connotations to this, and is that something we want to take onto the field? And so one thing that we both did was reached out to a lot of different people in the community of different backgrounds and said, would this be a hot button topic? Would it be something that could be viewed as offensive to some people? And really what we decided, if we did it right, then it would sell with just about everybody. And I think we hit the nail on the head.
You guys definitely did it right. But you were talking about how you teach music appreciation. You teach a lot of classes at Greenbrier East. You teach music appreciation, guitar classes, second block, which I'm going to get into in a second, 2 band classes, one for freshmen and one for the rest of them. And what else do you teach?
The steel drum ensemble.
Steel drum. Oh yeah, steel drums are cool. But the second block, was that an idea that you came up with, or was that an idea that someone else was like, oh, this would be cool? Because it's like a rock band, but it's a school class, which is really awesome.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked about that. That's first of all, second block. I guess the start of the whole thing happened around 2008, and if any of the viewers out there remember specifically, if I'm wrong on that, please let me know. But I had a group of guys. We used to have 2 levels of guitar class. We'd have an intro guitar class and then an advanced guitar class. But that advanced guitar class was always evolving. Every year it would be something a little bit different. And I think it was fall of 2008. Could have been 2007. We around that time we had a group of students in that advanced guitar class, and they came to me like the first day, or at least the first week of school, and they were like, hey, can we start a rock band in this class? And I was like, well, it's an interesting thought. I said, I know you guys all play guitar. Do any of you play any other instruments? And they kind of looked at each other like, and I said, does anybody play drums? And one guy was like, I have drums. And does anybody sing? I'd be willing to try. So it was that kind of thing. We didn't have any equipment. There was like really nothing there, but I was like, okay, well, let's give it a shot. And I'll be honest with you, the first year was really, kind of when you're experimenting with anything, it was pretty rough.
How'd you get the school board to go for that?
Well, with it being just as part of remember that advanced guitar class evolved every year. So it was something, it was just like, okay, well, this is something else we're going to try. And then at the time, we mentioned Mr. Jeff Bryant, who was previous band director. At the time, he was a principal at Greenbrier East, and I went and talked to him. I said, hey, would you support this if we want to do it? And he said, that sounds like a really interesting idea. I'd like to see where you take it. So we kind of went from there. The first year was rough, but it was just good enough to get some other people interested in it. We ended up bringing in some stronger musicians even the second year. Those first guys, a lot of progress was made that first year, and it was because of the work they did that more people wanted to get involved. So it just kind of escalated from there. By 2012, we did our first presentation at the State Music Conference, and it was something totally new at that time for West Virginia. I mean, nobody else was doing anything like that. Right. We got a lot of compliments from college music professors and from the top educators around the state saying, this is really great. We want to see this keep going, and it developed from there. Since then, our Second Block Rock has been an honor finalist and honor performer at the State Music Conference. We've been a host and headliner for our venue for the Winter Music Festival when that's been able to happen. Of course, COVID's kind of thrown a different spin on things. We've been doing more individual digital projects this year, but I think hopefully there's some good coming out of that too.
Right. So what's for? I assume you're just still doing second block rock for this year, right? Because we hadn't anticipated this. Are you?
How so? I mean, we
because
still,
it's like a class.
Yeah, it is a class, and we have it. So for this year, how it's different from other years. Okay, so we really haven't been able to do any full group things.
Right.
We did initially in the beginning of the year try to start out doing some group recordings that we were gonna share files digitally. The problem with that we had is that the Chromebooks that all the students have, the whole operating system has an issue with latency. So you can't do monitoring. So therefore, like, let's say, for example, Reese laid down a track. The idea was we'd be able to send that track to somebody else, and they'd be able to record over it. And then the problem is, since we're all dealing with the school issue Chromebooks and the latency issues there, you couldn't really dub over somebody else's track and hear it correctly. So that fell to the side. So now we're doing more individual projects.
Right. So speaking of latency, oh my God, West Virginia internet is so bad.
Okay, good transition, by the way.
You and I, you live like a mile down the road from me, and we both live in this like really steep valley, so our internet is spotty at best.
I live up 92.
Yeah,
10 miles up 92.
I think our internet speed is like 2 megabytes per second on a good day.
Right. That's like when it's 2 point something, we're like cheering.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
Like honestly,
someone can watch Netflix.
Right.
So I mean, you guys know about Countryman Communications, I think it is.
I've never heard of them.
They're this smaller internet company.
They're their own government and everything.
But they've been coming through like Greenbrier County and a couple other spots in West Virginia too, and they've just like kicking Frontier out the door.
Good.
Yeah, honestly, the service is so bad.
And the customer service, I mean, like, is bad too. Cause
we'll call them and they'll just be like, "Yeah, man, that sucks."
Frontier trash.
I gotta shift that just a little bit and say that, like, the Frontier corporate office people and the Frontier phone service when you call them, but the actual guys that come out and do the work are pretty awesome. Shout out to Frontier Techs. You guys,
it's
not
their
only
fault.
If you're a Frontier Tech and you happen to be watching this, I want you to know that you guys are like superheroes. Not only do you like solve problems with like technology that is like from like the 1920s or something, but you also have to deal with like corporate leadership that's like doesn't support you at all. So I don't have anything bad to say about you guys. You're awesome.
It's not their fault. Don't get mad at them. But I don't know. I'm just like, we would get going back to Countryman. We would get it there, but they don't have a tower that has line of sight to our house. I don't think your house either.
Right.
And probably not yours, or you guys probably would have gotten it by now. And so, the big radio tower, the like unused one,
just up from
on Monroe Draft.
Yeah.
I know anyone living there is a ray of hope. They are looking at leasing that from whichever company used to have it. I'm not really sure, but I
don't think anybody ever had it up and running. Somebody owned it, but they didn't ever use it.
Yeah. So that company still owns it, and they're like willing to lease it out at some crazy rate. It's like $15,000 just to get started, and then like a crazy monthly rent for it. And so I know they're supposed to be having a grant or something like that coming soon, and if they get that grant, then they said they're gonna seriously consider looking at getting the tower. And that's about my last ray of hope.
Man, I would hope that, I mean, they're not doing anything with that tower. It's sitting there. If I were the owner of the tower and somebody else was willing to take it on and like, take care of maintenance for it and everything like that, I would be like, all right, it's yours. Because I mean, you're not making any money off of it sitting there.
Yeah. I know. Maybe we could like start like a petition on the neighborhood. Everybody chips in some to get to get the grant.
Of course, I live in these like S curves, so there's chances are that like with mountains on
true.
6 sides of me that there's
that's a good point.
That I wouldn't get anything anyway.
It's for the greater good.
I'd still be cool with it. Yeah, internet in West Virginia. My feeling on our situation with broadband is that we've kind of let ourselves, and it's not just with broadband, but with so many resources, we let ourselves be abused over and over and over again by the
storm the Capitol.
Well, I don't. I'm not going to go that route. But what I will say is that, we tend to have a situation where we let these companies come in and, work, this isn't an anti-capitalism statement, but capitalism works great when you've got a market that's going to support everything,
Right.
when you can have competition. When you're talking about a rural area where like the company that does exist there doesn't even want to do the work that it takes to get things to work, it's, you're not going to have competition. You're not going to have improvement in services. You're not going to have competitive rates, all that stuff. All the capitalist theory that works maybe well in a suburban or urban environment doesn't really work well when you're talking about low volume of people in a rural area. So,
That's what it seems, because whenever we would call to have someone come and look at our internet, it's not like the people who the servicers. It's like they don't get a call. It's like they don't tell them to go and check that out. It's just like they don't come, and you're like, why didn't they come? And it's like, well, we didn't get a call. So it's not really. It doesn't seem like there's a high demand.
well, it's not a high demand. It's not a high motivation either. On the line that Ezra and I are on, my house is the last house on that line. So, from a corporate standpoint, it's like there's very little bang for their buck to come out and do much for me, because I'm paying like whatever my $50 a month or whatever, but like that's like
What are you going to do? Go to a different provider?
Right.
No.
There's no competition. So again, I think we have to. I like Senator Stephen Baldwin's been talking recently about the possibility of West Virginia communities building our own infrastructure,
Right.
and then having the outside companies just lease that from us. And I think that's probably in the long run. I mean, in the short run, it's going to be tough. There's a big investment there. But in the long run, I think it's going to be a better investment for us.
I mean, if anything has opened your eyes to that, it's got to be this year with remote
absolutely.
learning and everything's online. It's got to
Absolutely.
be this year.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say? Just had total Alzheimer's.
I didn't mean
moment.
to interrupt you.
I don't remember what I was gonna say. Oh yeah. So like you said, this year during COVID, it's particularly important, and I know you definitely feel this a lot because you've been having to work from home, especially since you had COVID. And like I've experienced it, where our internet literally just gets so slow it drops out of the call.
Right.
So does that happen a lot in meetings?
I
know it happens sometimes.
It's happened multiple times.
I've seen it happen like 3 or 4 times on band meetings.
Yeah, so I'll be like talking, and they'll be like, "Wait, they don't hear me." So I have to like restart everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it was worse in the summer.
It's gotten way worse recently.
But maybe it has gotten worse. Just for me, I noticed it worse last summer.
Yeah.
It continues to be a problem on and off with, dropping of, video or dropping of audio or dropping of an entire connection.
I'd rather at least be consistently bad than just sometimes cease functioning.
Right.
And like, I don't know. It's having internet now is like having electricity,
Right.
and like we were just kind of out of luck, since like you said, there's no financial motivation for Frontier, and what else have they got, And it really bothers me though, because Frontier's whole gig is like providing internet to places that other companies can't get to, right? But like, if you can't get to the places that we're at, like that, what's the point?
Right. I think we've kind of had a love-hate relationship with Frontier because, like, I can't stand the service that they provide. Again, I love the techs and what they do with stuff, but like the infrastructure is just not set up, and they continue to like take this government money and
what do they do with it?
I'm assuming that some CEOs are getting bigger checks or something. I'm not sure, but maybe that's not fair to say. I just don't really know what's going on with it. But
I mean, it's nothing's improving, so it's not really unfair to say necessarily. So.
But the other side of it is they're the only ones trying at this point. So it's like it's kind of like being a little bit in an abusive relationship. It's like you imagine yourself being like with a partner in a relationship, and you're like, well, that's the best I can get. And so like
better than nothing.
You take the hits or whatever because you can't and I feel like that's kind of where we are with stuff.
Yeah.
And we pay as much for someone who gets like internet 3-4 times our speed,
or 100 times our speed.
Literally 100 times our speed.
Not kidding.
Yeah. So our internet should be like $5.
Yeah. You said that one company who's whatever it
Countryman?
was. Yeah, it's a good opportunity now, especially for someone to open up and really be like, well, we're going to actually do it right. And not like
it sucks that they hit those roadblocks like with the super expensive tower.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not just sell? I mean, I guess to be fair, they would make a bunch of money from it, but like for this small company to have to require a federal grant,
Mhm.
you know, and like
Which they should. They should get.
they
get it,
really
hopefully.
should, you know, because that's a huge problem in West Virginia and has been for a really long time. I remember whenever we first switched from satellite to Frontier, back when they were the good guys, we were getting 7 megabytes per second, which is mind-boggling now.
Whoa.
I would give up my house for 7 megabytes.
Wait, you were getting 7 megs at your house?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what changed? I wonder. Like what?
7 years. I don't know. It's like
How did it get worse?
I don't,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's you saying that they're getting more money and how they're getting worse.
Right.
Because I use this. I play a lot of PC games, you know, and so I watched this other video the other day about this dude who was like, I would download this game and then come home in the afternoon and there would be 2 hours left, and there was. Did you ever play Red Dead Redemption 2?
Yeah, I played.
That took me like 2 weeks to download.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, mine's not that bad.
Mine-
Sometimes I'm pulling 10 megs, which is
Whoa.
crazy. I know.
Whoa.
It'd be like the download speed on the Xbox games would be like 10 megabytes. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, we struggle to get like 2 megabytes at like 11 o'clock,
Right.
you know, when nobody else is
And
on
then
the
the
internet.
ping will be like 700 or
God.
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's hard to deal with, you know. Like I love living at our house, but that's the one gripe I've got with
Yeah.
it, you know. Okay, so kind of diverging the conversation here. I wanted to touch on this earlier. You have been teaching for how many years?
22 years.
22
Nice.
years.
Yeah, I started in 1999. We're
Yeah.
2021. That's 22
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
So you have to have some crazy stories. from them
Crazy
right now.
stories. Okay, I have a lot of stories, and you know, gosh, what kinds of stories would you guys like to hear? I mean, like
Entertaining ones.
entertaining.
Probably all of them. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure you have enough.
Whatever first thing comes to your head.
So the first thing that comes to my head was the first year that I taught, I was teaching guitar classes, and I am pretty sure. And Gary Williams, if you happen to see this, you can confirm or deny this, or we can talk about it later. But I'm pretty sure that Gary Williams, who was the assistant principal at that time and he was in charge of scheduling, was trying to put me through some sort of initiation process. There were people in the guitar classes that nobody else would want. I mean, and interestingly. I've got all sorts of stories about. There was. I'll leave names out of this to protect the innocent or guilty or whatever.
Witness
But
protection.
right. But I came into the class. This is just an example. A guitar class first thing in the morning, and I'd let a young man into the room, and then I went to use the restroom or check in or something. I can't remember. I came back into the room, and there was like smoke, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I see, and the guy's got like. Stuff piled up in the floor, and he's got a fire lit there. It's like
On the linoleum floor.
it's not linoleum, but like
Whatever
the
it
tile
is.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like going, what are you doing? And he's like, I was cold.
Yo,
So yeah, that was he got sent to the office obviously, but
This is in high school, right?
Yeah. So
Figured.
and I'm like a brand new teacher, so I don't know what to do about all that. They didn't prepare us for that in college.
no,
That-
I don't think you could.
I don't know, man. If I was a teacher, that might have just been it for me.
I'm quitting.
Yeah, another one. Just those guitar classes are like they're the low hanging fruit for stories, especially early on there.
man.
I had 2 guys that were, and again I'll leave the names out to protect the innocent and the guilty here. But I had these 2 guys who their families actually had restraining orders against each other, and they weren't supposed to be within like 50 feet of each other, but yet they were in the same class. So that was an interesting process to deal with.
Do you know why they had the restraining order?
They'd had trouble in middle school with each other. One of them had some like real issues where he liked to push people's buttons, and then the other one was just trying to figure things out, I think. So it was just a rough situation there. But the one guy that actually had some like maybe more negative personality traits would like go to the bathroom and bring out samples of his fecal matter and put it on people's stuff. So so that was another thing I had to deal with. There was a guy that in the advanced guitar class that his name was I'll use his name because it wasn't really his name, but his name was Bubba. And I don't actually, to be honest with you, I don't remember his real name.
Okay.
At this point in time. But Bubba previously had gotten maybe suspended or expelled for part of the time for like punching the ceiling of a school bus and actually putting a visible dent in it. That the rumor was that actually there was like he cracked it enough so that water would leak in, but I don't think that was actually true.
Oh, wow.
But what he did do while he was in my class, he got mad one time. There used to be a snack machine in the music hallway, and he actually like took the whole snack machine and slammed it down, busted the glass. And
I assume he got in trouble for that.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, I know my dad's told me some crazy stories when he was in school in the 1400s, and what was once there was he would just tell me crazy stuff, like you could just like beat a kid up in class, and then like the teacher would be like, stop it, you two, and then the kid would like go to the bathroom and like wipe off the blood off of his nose, and then they'd go home the next day and tell his mom he fell down a flight of stairs or something.
Whatever people say about the good old days, I would say that we've definitely made some improvements along the way.
Yeah.
So like, that's another thing to say. Especially right now, that gives me a transition into something I wanted to talk about a little bit, and that's that public education in West Virginia is really under attack right now. And I say that if you look at the legislation that is coming out by the new House and Senate, or newly elected House and Senate, a lot of their bills are bills that are not favorable to public education, and there's a lot of criticism.
Aren't they trying to get rid of the Promise Scholarship?
That hasn't come up in a bill yet, but that as far as where that story comes from is that there is an effort, or at least a suggestion that we should be getting rid of the income tax in West Virginia. And so then of course, when you get rid of source of revenue for supporting state programs, including education, et cetera, then you have to find ways to make up for that loss, whether that be have other sources of revenue, which there's been suggestions of increase of sales tax, maybe bringing back food tax. Those are generally known as regressive taxes, and they tend to kind of affect everybody, including folks that are maybe at lower income, et cetera. Whereas like with the income tax, which right now as it is right now, we do have a progressive income tax where lower income people are either waived from their taxes or not taxed as much. So, but getting rid of that income tax would definitely mean that we'd have to have some changes somewhere. And one thing that's on the potential chopping block is Promise Scholarship, along with funding for public education and funding for higher education, like the universities and whatnot. Right. So, but I guess back to my prior point with the okay, with the legislation that seems to be kind of saying that public education needs to have a lot of reforms and whatnot. As far as that's concerned, I just want to refer back to your statement about how your dad's experiences and how things have changed. And I think I really think the public schools do a really great job for what they're doing. I'm always proud to work at Greenbrier East High School. I think sure, there's things that we can always do better, but I think we're always trying to do things better. And I think that no matter whether that happens at the public schools or if you go into a private school situation or a charter school situation, whatever those things that are being proposed, I don't think you're going to see a bigger effort than what we already have going on.
So this might be kind of a hard question to answer, but if you could change one thing about our public schooling system right now, what do you think that would be?
Gosh, you know what? If I were going to change one thing about
no money restrictions or politics or anything.
No money restrictions. If we could have more funding for the arts, obviously that's my bag. That's that's kind of where I am with things. I look around Greenbrier East right now. I see a lot of improvements happening, and there's a lot of we've got a new stadium seating at the football stadium. The new soccer facility that's been built is amazing.
Is that finished?
They're still working on some things with it, but the surface that's there is, I would say that it would compete with any college surfaces in the state. Yeah. Honestly, it may be a better surface than most colleges in the state.
It's nice.
The baseball program is at this point in time working on building a new indoor practice facility behind the baseball field. I'd like to see us have that kind of stuff going on for the arts.
Yeah.
I imagine at Greenbrier East if we had a a really really nice musical performance space. Like we do have the auditorium at the middle school, but if we had like a larger scale auditorium that was really worthy of our program at Greenbrier East for like the choral program and the instrumental program and everything else we have going on. It'd be amazing to have a place to have concerts like that.
Right.
As far as our practice facilities, you guys know we the band traditionally has practiced on the field down by 219, and that field
It's a floodplain. Right?
it is a floodplain issue, and we've been dealing with that, especially more so since the work on the soccer field initially was causing increased flooding there. I think that's somewhat resolved, but we moved up to the parking lot behind the school, and that's worked better in a lot of ways, but it's also a little limited. If the band were to get bigger, then that parking lot wouldn't really suffice. So I would like to see an effort on multiple fronts to have better facilities for our music programs, practice facilities for the marching band, etc.
For sure.
Those are just some things that I'd like to see.
And shout out to the State Fair for letting us use that West Virginia building.
That
was awesome.
Absolutely. Kelly and the whole crew at the State Fair. The ability to use the West Virginia building has been a blessing every time we've been able to do that, and
Absolutely.
I hope we can keep that relationship up.
It's nice doing all that drill and practicing stuff indoors in an air-conditioned room.
Yeah.
I do miss doing marching band though. That's definitely is and going to be one of my favorite memories of high school. And it really sucks that I missed this year's show, the skip class one, because I remember I heard about that and I was looking forward to that. And at the start of the pandemic, I began planning on doing things or like doing it remotely or somehow. We had some plan with my parents, and Philip and I, section leader for the Saxes, we'd made a couple videos, and uploaded them. So, and I had fun doing that with him, even though that was about the extent of my that was about the extent of my involvement with band this year, which sucks,
Well, this year's definitely thrown a wrench in a lot of people's plans. I'm hoping as vaccines become more available, especially if we can get it to the point where those are available for teens that want to take them, and we can maybe get a better handle on this whole thing, and hopefully for the coming school year get back to a little bit more a normal situation.
Right.
We'll see.
So how are the other teachers handling it? Is there like a general content or discontent with the way things are being done right now?
I tell you what, we have a great community in the faculty. Actually, we have our own Facebook Messenger group chat where we talk about stuff and kind of sort things out. And I tell you what, the faculty at East, it's a wonderful set of colleagues. I'll just say that. It's like we kind of our own little family there, and we share frustrations, we share joys. We really, I think for the most part, we have a pretty common attitude among our faculty as far as what we like about what's going on, what we're frustrated about. I think I hope I can speak for most of them, saying that we've all learned a lot this year and trying to figure out how to deal with technology. We all have things that maybe we've gotten better with our technology, but given the choice, we'd all like to be back in person, if in a safe way.
Right.
That's I don't want to say we want to rush back. This actually came up in a conversation with another music teacher from another part of the state, and I'll leave her name out to protect the innocent again. But she was feeling frustrated because she was kind of getting vibes from people that if she said she didn't feel like it was safe to go back 100%, that people took that as though she wasn't passionate about her job and that she didn't want to be there with all of her students. And she was like, no, I love my students and I want to be there and I want to do what I love to do, but I want to do it the right way. And I want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for more problems in the future by jumping the gun here. So and I think most of us feel that way.
Yeah.
So how do you see things just regular school and extracurricular stuff like marching band? How do you see that working next year?
Oh gosh, that's really anybody's guess at this point in time.
Yeah.
The attitude that I'm going to take with it is that I'm going to prepare as though it can happen as normally as possible.
Right.
because, and I actually had this discussion with Mr. Bryant back at the beginning of this year. I was like, at least in my situation, the most complicated scenario is what we do on a normal basis.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's the one that takes the most planning out front. It's the one that takes the most coordinating of different groups with
And it's the one you know how to plan for too.
right. Yeah. So in my mind, I feel like I need to be planning as though things can happen normally.
Right.
And then if we have to scale back or if we have to change plans, then those are things that we can do down the road. But I'm hopeful and cautiously hopeful, I'll say.
Yeah.
I want to see things get back to normal in a safe way. And I think that it's possible that can happen. And that's what I'm going to plan for.
Do you think there's going to be a big increase in people who are still doing online school even after COVID?
Oh gosh, that thoughts come to my mind as far as like what the county decides to offer once we are able to go back regularly. I really don't know. One of the things that has come up in these charter school bills, like I referenced before, have been the possibility of having online charter schools. And the interesting thing with that is that a lot of the people who are like pro charter schools and kind of pushing that and complaining maybe about the public schools, they're complaining about the fact that things are online right now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm not sure what they want is like, okay, you don't like what we're doing, but you'd like to have charter schools that are doing the same thing that we're doing now.
Right.
To me, that seems to have some cognitive dissonance involved there. So, but with that being said, I do think that the remote learning maybe just works better for some people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I wouldn't say that it's the majority, but I'd say it's enough to to have an impact. And if I were king of the world or whatever, I would think that it'd be nice to have some sort of online options for people moving forward.
For sure.
I don't control that. I don't know what's
Right.
going on, and I understand also that could be complicated too. And I'm glad I don't make those decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were joking before about how we don't want to be president,
Yeah.
and it's sort of the same sort of thing. I wouldn't want to have to make those decisions.
Making decisions is hard.
Yeah.
Especially when there's no right decision sometimes.
Yeah. And, again, I really don't envy people like Jeff Bryant who have to make those decisions, because, like, particularly people who are making these decisions that have influence over a lot of people, their decisions are always judged in the future, where there's no fog of what is going to happen.
But the decisions have to be made when you're definitely in that moment. And
Yeah.
you don't,
So it's easy to look back and say, like, well, that was dumb. You should have just done this, But it's a lot harder than I think people give other people credit for to make those decisions.
An example, like even like when they close school or like don't close school, like people be like, that was dumb. They shouldn't have closed school. They should have closed school. It's like, well, you can't, especially with the weather, and you can't forecast literally with the weather and in general, you can't forecast the future.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I'm going to steer the conversation away again, though, still related to COVID. Your wife, Tasha, she is a nurse, and how's she been dealing with this whole COVID situation? How are you family preparing? And
First of all, I'll tell you that I'm biased, but I think that my wife is an amazing nurse. She's
a great person in general. Well.
Thank you.
You guys both are, but
well, that's awesome that you say that, Reese. But she's really amazing. She researches a lot. She's a practicing nurse right now, a registered nurse, but she is missing just her practicum, which would basically be like a clinical service, to having her master's degree in becoming like a nurse practitioner, and a lot of her education in that area had to do with research, and so she's really kind of in that research mindset already anyway. So as COVID came out, she knows where to look in the journals to find the most current information. She knows how to do that stuff, and that's been a huge resource for the band. That really informed a lot of our approach as we did things with marching band in the summer and fall. She's obviously for our family. It informs our decisions as far as what we choose to do and how we choose to approach things, and so she's definitely a great resource, and I'm lucky to have her.
Yeah, and I definitely think that you guys, and more specifically Tasha, have made generally pretty dang good decisions regarding how you did band. You know, there was no, I didn't end up doing band this year. I felt no pressure, like I was like bailing or something, you know, because you guys were like clear about the fact that like particularly then we didn't know what was going on the way we do now. We still hardly do, but like you said, it's good to have that resource for the band. And do you know, has she been doing any like frontline treatment of people?
Her practicing jobs have to do primarily with mother and baby stuff where she's dealing with
Right.
Patients in the maternity floor,
Right.
and then she also does some recovery
Right.
stuff in other areas. So because of the types of work that she does, she's not dealing with a lot of
That's good.
COVID positive
Right.
patients.
Some.
There are some COVID positive people that have come through, but it's not her primary area of work right now.
Right. So
She's gotten vaccinated, right?
Yes.
yeah. When did she get vaccinated?
She got her first round in late December, and then got her second round, I guess, 2 weeks after.
Right after you got COVID, right?
Well, she got her first round before I got it,
Yeah.
and then got her second round after.
That's
I
what I
got
meant.
it.
The second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How do you think you got COVID? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Me neither.
We're really, really, we're very careful. It's just really hard to say.
The same happened for us, you know, like during the start of the pandemic, we'd like wipe down groceries or everything, you know, still wear masks everywhere we go. And the only person who goes out regularly is my dad to come here, you know, to work. So like and another crazy thing is how my mom didn't get it. And a similar thing happened with my sister Stephanie. My nephew actually got it, and no one else in the family got it. And you got it, and no one else in your family got it. So it's bizarre.
Yeah, it really is strange, and
We obviously don't know how it works yet.
Yeah.
You know.
it's pretty crazy. It looks like we're maybe getting the signal that we need to wind down. Is that the case there?
We got a couple minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, we can end it now. We're
That's
good.
cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do us for today. Thank you guys for watching, and see you.
Awesome.